go do it.
Yeah.
Be cautious and make sure you learn and you're not trying to screw anybody over.
Yeah.
Do it with integrity, but go take action and goodwill. Okay. If you do those 4 things continuously every day with consistency, with the intention to only be 1% better daily, success will hunt you down. Period.
Host Josh Appleman, founder and CEO of Appleman Properties. Today we're joined with Eric Upchurch. Eric is a Central Iowa native turned Army Special Operations veteran with combat deployments and a master's in Aeronautical Science. He's now a real estate expert, co-founder of ADPI. He's mastered investing indoors, managing assets, and coaching success. Eric, we're happy to have you on the show today. If you could let the listeners know a little bit more about yourself.
What is going on, Josh? How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Ready to talk about real estate.
Yeah. It's my day in, day out passion. Love it. Let's do it. Yeah. So just quick bio, you hit it pretty much. When I left the military, I kind of realized that I stumbled into being an accidental landlord like most military members do. Bought a house fully leveraged in 2006 and couldn't sell it when I got out of the military. So decided to rent it and then started just doing research like, hey, this thing's barely making money. Can I do it better? And most of my brothers and sisters in the military are in that same scenario. So we created our company, Active Duty Passive Income, to teach military members how to move around from duty station to duty station and after service as well, but do it intentionally. And we provide all the resources they need to learn how to do it the right way.
That's huge. And there's definitely a learning curve once you get into investing and all the nuances that go along with it. So active duty passive investing is you all teach everyone from the mechanics of how it all works to underwriting their own deals to finding their own deals, or is it investing into deals together?
Yeah, it's everything soup to nuts. Honestly, we started with, for those of you listening, I'm holding up our book, which is free. It's a #1 bestseller on Amazon called Military House Hacking, but you can get it for free on our website, activedutypassiveincome.com. And it teaches, specifically if you're military or prior service, go get a copy of it, free PDF download, and you'll learn how to buy a 1 to 4 unit. And so this is the thing. The reason ADPI exists is because we recognize things that we wish we would have known. I mean, you hear people say that all the time, like, oh man, I wish I would have known that 15 years ago. So as we were going through the military and getting out of the military, we're like, man, if some realtor in 2006 had told me that I could buy a 4-plex with no money out of pocket, I would have bought a 4-plex with the VA loan. But no one taught that. And so, or you have to find some specialized realtor who really know what they were talking about and could convince, a young military member to go do that. But if I can buy a 4-plex with no money out of pocket, I'm doing that all day now. And so now we're teaching people, whether it be a single family and renting out the rooms or a duplex tri or quad, that's the foundation that any military member can start with before they really know how to, take the next step into syndication and all this other stuff, all these other avenues of real estate investment. It's like the easy toe in to get started investing in real estate.
Yeah, I think a lot of the realtors, they might not even know that it's available out there for their clients as far as.
Absolutely. And Josh, what's awesome? Sorry to interrupt you there. What's awesome? I just got super excited because you said every time you say a realtor, one of the things I do with a passion is like cold calling or reaching out to somebody, connecting. And so we recognize what you just said, which was most realtors probably don't know you can do that, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. But what I did was I called National Association of Realtors, and there's a realtor designation, like the 3 letters you put on the back end of your name. It's called the MRP, the Military Relocation Professional. So very attractive for any realtor who, especially if they live in like a military market, like San Antonio or something, they get that MRP designation, and then a military member might be more inclined to go and use them as a service. But all that really means, that doesn't even mean they served. That means that they took a course.
Yeah.
So we took the course and we were like, holy cow, this has to have been written by civilians. So it was just kind of all over the place. It wasn't direct, and it was fine for the time. It was a good intro. But we took it and we're like, we are the subject matter expert in this. We need to get this dialed in. So when I reached out, they were like, yeah, you guys are the SME, the subject matter expert in this field. Can you help us revamp this course? So we have a credit at the end of that course for creating that course for all realtors nationwide. to get that MRP designation now. And that's just like one little thing to help the next military service member do it the right way with intention.
Yeah, I mean that is one of the best and easiest ways to get into real estate investing is house hacking, and if you can do it in a duplex or a quad, I mean you're just so much further ahead. And just being educated by the realtor can help get you there too, taking out the right debt. So you've got a massive portfolio. Can we talk about that a little bit? How you started, and then essentially what the first deal looked like, and then the second deal.
Yeah, first deal. So 5 years ago, I attended a conference, and through my military training, one thing I realized was nothing I do in the civilian world I classify as hard. And I know there are hard things we do mentally and physically, but my perspective as I'm going into something new is like, okay, this couldn't be worse than what I've already done. This couldn't be worse than 5 combat deployments. It couldn't be worse than special operations qualification course or airborne or air assault or Navy SEER school or any of the stuff that I had to go through. Learning to buy an apartment complex can't be worse, right? So I go to a conference, I see people up on stage talking, and I'm like, wow, those are just regular people like me. If they did it, what's to stop me from doing it? I may not be the smartest guy in the room, but I'm driven. I can follow a checklist. This is clearly something that is a well-traveled path. Thousands of people are doing it. So why not me? And I committed right there to 5 years. I was like, mentally, I'm like, I'm going to do this for 5 years and work my butt off. And just the key word is commit before I have any expectations. And I'm going to see what happens. So within 15 months, after kind of signing up for coaching there, I had purchased with partners an 80 unit asset, and we bought it for $3.25 million and sold it 26 months later for $5.5 million. And granted, I will also say a lot of that was market driven, but that's great. If you can take advantage of the market, which I did in every way, shape, or form I could for the last 10 years, we made that place efficient. We renovated everything. We made it beautiful, and we provided our investors with a 42% IRR, and we doubled their money in 26 months. So it was fantastic and a great kickoff to kind of the next step. And the rest of it, honestly, was just adding value to teams. It was being in the right place consistently and being known in the real estate industry enough that people would say, hey, Eric, we value you. We see what you could bring to our team. Come on in. We'd love to have your help. And anybody, I'm not special. Anybody can do that. You just have to commit to showing up and telling people what you're up to.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest part, is showing up, being consistent, and people like predictability. If they know that you are who you say you are, can do what you say you can do, you're already in the winning side for sure.
Yes, sir.
The 80 units that propelled you because of proof of concept. It works. You got in the deal. You made returns, and then was your second deal? Was it after that, or was it simultaneously happening as you took that down? And one other question: are you using third-party property management as well?
Yeah. Always third-party property management. You are and I'll tell everyone, I'll tell our students this, to tell everybody I can this. If you're going to be a real estate investor, be a real estate investor. I am not a real estate manager. I'm not a property manager. You hire a PM to do the PM job. You hire an accountant to do the accountant job. You hire a broker to do the broker job. All of that stuff. That's how the economy works. Hire the professionals to do what they do best. And I have to know what I do best on a team. And part of that, kind of like you just alluded to, is if you consistently are doing one thing for a team and they know what to expect, that's what you just said, which is fantastic. If they know what to expect, some of my best teams and best deals are with teams who know exactly how I communicate and they like it. And I know exactly how they communicate and I like it. And then those teams just kind of continue to happen, because every deal you can have a different general partnership and things can shift. But, a couple teams I've done many deals with, and that's because we get each other. You have the same frequency, you speak the same language, the real estate language and the way you vibe, and it just makes things a little bit smoother. So.
Got it. For the beginner real estate investors listening right now, they're wanting to connect the dots. You've got 80 units. What do they do after they've submitted LOI? LOI has been approved, and now they need to for debt. What would be a good debt
I mean, I can tell you a name if you want, but I use a broker for everything. I just go to Atlas Real Estate Capital, Tyler Carney DeBoard. He's my boy. I talk to him every week, and he will find the right debt structure. And if it's not the right asset for him, and I'll give you an example on my second deal, which I passed over and you asked, he will tell me, this isn't the right deal for me. You need to go to a local credit union or local bank. He'll tell me, don't use my services when it's not right. So shout out to Tyler. But that second deal, when it rains, it pours. We actually got the 80 unit and a 71 pad mobile home park under contract at the same time. So we're trying to, and I do not recommend doing this to anyone, and we knew that it was going to be a tough task for us at the time too, but we're like, we have 2 deals and we're getting started, and wow, this is amazing. And we're grateful for this. So we hacked through it and got it done. But I don't recommend when you're starting that you do more than 1 deal at a time. Wait 3 months, start stabilizing your first asset, and then get into the second one. But they will start coming like that. Once you do one, the broker's like, hey, I got another one because you just made me money. They start sending you stuff. Okay. So the 71 pad mobile home park, speaking, and to kind of tie it into the debt, we could not get debt on it. We bought this park for $995,000. And obviously you're not qualifying for agency debt for Fannie Freddie, because it's not $1 million or higher loan. It was less than stabilized. I think it was like 77% occupied at the time. There was some extra pads and that we could add on, and some renovations we could do, and some upkeep and all this other stuff. So there was plenty of value there, but we weren't going to be able to get debt on it. And that was made loud and clear. So one of my partners, Tim Kelly, posted on LinkedIn. Family office saw his post and said, hey, we'll fund the deal. We'll fund the debt, but we want the equity also. So they funded debt and equity on a $995,000 purchase price. We sold that property for $2.5 million. I think it was just around the 3-year mark. So did well on that one also for our investor. So that one's, man, talk about PM. You got to have, with the nuance with mobile home parks. I've only done one. You've got to have somebody local there. It's not like Bob living in Unit 1A necessarily. You need to have an asset manager who's local. So my recommendation, if you're looking to get into parks, find a park operator, somebody who owns parks in the area or in the state generally, because a lot of times park operators are more inclined to drive farther distances because there's not as many kind of tucked around. So find somebody locally that has a good reputation, reach out to them and give them equity for taking the asset management over at least the property management. Give them the piece of the pie for coming into the deal and making sure that it operates well. Friend of mine, Kevin Bupp, who does mobile home parks. Historically, he's like the mobile home park guy. I clearly remember him telling me that was his biggest headache, was trying to figure out the property management part of mobile home parks.
What was one of the reasons why you couldn't get debt on the mobile home park?
A lot of lenders at the time didn't understand the local market. Number one, it was in southern Indiana, like an hour north of Louisville. I mean, there's no other way. Like, you can't say Scottsburg, Indiana, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I know where that is. So it's hyper local, and for a bank to understand how to lend on something like that and the risk tolerances that they have, they've got to be. It's hyper niche. And so not only is Fannie Freddie out because of the reasons I said, it's not $1 million loan. So Fannie Freddie, and it's not stabilized 90 for 90. So Fannie Freddie's out. And then because it's a mobile home park, it's like, there are these kind of nuances that that a lender is going to be like, I don't really understand it. So you have to find like either someone who understands parks or a bank that's willing to take a gamble on you. Right. Yeah. And that's tough when you're getting started. So for us, it was perfect. The family office that we got to, invest in the deal already owned a bunch of parks. So they already knew how they were supposed to operate, what the structure was like, what to expect. And then they just had to kind of vet us to make sure we weren't going to screw up. And having that boots on ground asset manager that was part of the deal, guarantee was the only way that we were able to get their confidence in us. Yeah.
So value add on something like that, would that be raising the lot rents and
yep.
selling? Gotcha.
Yeah, lot rents went from like $225 to $325, if I recall. And you do those comps just like you would anything else. You go around and you shop parks as close as you can. It's obviously a bigger radius, but thankfully in that town there were a few more parks that were a little nicer than ours that we could go and get comps from. And so we knew the general value that we could raise it up. And another thing about parks that a lot of people love is tenants are, especially owner tenants, are less likely to move because it's going to cost them $5,000 to $10,000 to move their house.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. I mean, they can just do the math. If you have a $1,200 increase per year on pad rent, is that going to be more cost effective, or the headache of spending 10 grand to move your whole house to a new park? And you have to find a park. You've got to secure the spot. It's got to be the right spot. There's all these ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
So, but you also can't overdo it. You're not going to be like, oh, it's now $500, because everyone would just leave. Right. So there are some similarities to apartments also. You just have to be conscious, and you're not trying to do wrong by your tenants. You're just trying to bring it up to market. That's all.
Yeah, that's it. The expenses go up, so you're trying to get to market to today's rates for sure. What are some multifamily strategies that you all are using?
Man, I've got a whole list of like extras. Some of my favorites are in just reducing expenses. I'll give you a good example. That first deal we bought. So you can either, just for your less experienced audience members who are listening, I can give you kind of a snapshot of how you add value to a property. It's either increasing your revenue or decreasing your expenses. And typically, as an operator, you want to do both. That spread increases your net operating income, which exponentially increases the value of the property. As an example, I'll give you one contract example. We went in, found that the garbage contract was $1,200 a month for X size bin. And we're like, all right, well, let's see if we can call around and see if there's another contractor that will do the same thing. We found one for half the price, same service, same bin, same days of the week.
Wow.
$600 a month. So we saved $7,200 divided by the cap rate was over $100,000 instant increase in valuation because we changed one contract. And this is a Class C asset. If you've got a Class B or a Class A asset, kind of going up in amenities and maybe vintage, maybe age, newer age, you can add things like trash valet. Your tenants will pay, depending on the asset and the location, maybe not in tertiary market, blue collar USA, which is where our 80 unit was, but in Dallas, if you've got a Class B asset in Dallas, just making stuff up here, your tenants might want to pay $10 a month for them to be able to put their trash in a bin in the hallway or outside their house, depending on how you do it, and having a maintenance guy come around every night and picking up trash in the hallway, a trash bag in some kind of bin. So those types of things instantly go to the bottom line. Nowadays, as silly as this sounds, a technology package. You can offer tenants as they move into their lease, you can add on for say $5 a month, or whatever you can charge, probably $5 a month. You can change out the outlet and make it a USB outlet. Where do you want a USB outlet? Usually where you hang out, the kitchen and the bedside table. So put in a couple outlets and charge them $5 a month. And so there's all these little things like that people don't think of that you can add. Do you have extra land? Look at cell tower leases. Look at billboard installation. Solar, not quite there yet. That's something else, but there's all kinds of things that you can do to reduce expenses or add revenue.
Yeah, we have tried the billboard route, and you got to have zoning. It's got to be that's actually a pretty protected niche with the city. They only allow zoning in certain areas, and
sure,
we've got a property that's right next to I-75 North, so it would have been perfect. But those are the pickles and cheese. Those add up. Your cable carrier, having a contract with them and getting a form of a kickback.
Yep.
But what would be one of the biggest lessons that you've learned while you all are scaling?
I think number one, and not because I've been burned by this, but because it's a level of comfortability and trust. I vet the team, the people that I'm working with before the deal. So anybody getting started or anybody scaling up, know the people you're working with. What do other people think? I mean, you're going to judge for yourself. Don't judge a book by its cover. Get to know the person, see them speak if they're out there on the multifamily circuit or doing podcasts or whatever, but listen to them. And here's a weird thing. This is a people business. If you have a weird gut feeling, like somebody listening to this podcast is probably like, oh, Eric's full of shit. Like, oh, I can't listen to that guy. That's fine. It's okay. The people you want to listen to are the people that you feel good with. They need to match your energy. They need to communicate to your style, and they should do the same thing back to you. The best partnerships are going to be like that. If you get a bad feeling about somebody, there's nothing wrong with that person you get a bad feeling from. It's just a frequency. It's a wavelength between you that doesn't match up. That's totally okay, but you have to listen to that. I'll also say spouse superpower. If you have a spouse that you listen to, well, you should listen to. If they get a bad feeling about somebody, if you take them out to dinner and you're trying to get to know them, listen to that feeling, because they will have a gut feeling because you're like amped up and you want to do some business and you're in this mode where they're like, kind of like, how did they treat the waiter? How did they, what is their family life like or whatever? And then go back home and kind of get some input and see if that's the right next step for you.
Yeah, that's intuition, and it's free advice if you're just listening to your surroundings and what's in your heart. Because people will either be who they say they are or not, and you'll find out sooner or later if you decide to stick around. And ultimately, multifamily is a business. So if you've got business acumen and you know how to pivot and you know how to push and you have a sense of urgency and hustle and grit, you'll be successful. And that's just business 101. If you expect it to be passive and you want to be an operator, the jockey on a horse, it's the wrong business. It doesn't exist. I think that the word passive gets thrown out a lot because there is a passive side on the LP side, but not on the general partnership.
Yep. I mean, our company is a play on words, active duty, passive income, but you're absolutely right. Even if you're going to be an LP, there's an active part of that. I mean, you need to pay attention. You need to figure out, you have to do that upfront research and ask the GPs the right questions and make sure that they're vetted. So, and then you're looking at their quarterly or monthly, statements. Are they communicating? Do you have questions? Are they responding? Are you getting what you need? Are your distributions coming? All of those types of things. So, there is an active component. It's just, it's less, you're trying to get to, for passive investors, you're trying to get to the least amount of effort you can get to, right?
Yeah. What are some lessons learned while bringing in investors, and now you've got personalities to manage and expectations to manage? What are some lessons that you've learned on that front?
It's tough, especially you're more enticed when you're getting started to bring family into your investments because you're excited about it and you're going to do great things. But I will caution people at the beginning. If something goes, and thankfully this hasn't happened to me, but if something goes south on a deal, it is going to be very difficult to sit at Thanksgiving dinner and look somebody in the eye across the seat. So if you have family coming in, my recommendation is to make sure you have enough capital reserves personally to buy them out if they don't like the initial investment, especially if it's their first time investing like this. Have enough reserves to feel comfortable, whether it's your part of your acquisition fee that you're just saving and setting aside. Great idea when you're getting started. Just start to accumulate some of that in your business so that if some investor comes to you and goes, I just need out, I've got this life circumstance. I mean, they sign the documents and technically they don't need to be let out, but honestly, it's a good idea because especially if it's family. And then secondly, if you have an investor that is questioning the wrong things, that is a flag. I'll give you an example. If you've got a deal and you're talking to your investor and you're trying to, say, let me answer all your questions, and it's that it's a home run deal and you're under promising and over delivering, and you've kind of explained just like the bare bones of what the returns are going to be, and you're going into the asset and familiarity with the market and all of these things, and they're focused on something like, well, I think the placement of the cameras is at the wrong angle, and I think the lighting is wrong because X, Y, and Z reasons that this isn't safe and that isn't safe. Those are okay for them to ask, but you have to go back as a sponsor and go, is this $50,000, $100,000 investment going to be worth it if they're concerned about the absolute wrong things? We obviously know how to handle security cameras and, gate functionality and the little things. So let them answer the questions, but then after the fact, you need to go, hey, is this going to be the right type of investor for this asset? Because typically what that means is they're tiptoeing. They're a little bit timid and they're kind of looking for reasons, like nitpicky reasons. And again, not to their fault, but nitpicky reasons to not do the deal. And so you have to think, okay, that's going to be 5 years of the same thing. So just be careful and make sure that the investor is right for that deal. So ask them questions back. Make sure that their net worth is high enough to invest in your deal. It cannot be their last $50,000, right? So make sure that that you're really screening your investors to make sure that it's right for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's different types of multifamily deals. There's core, which is just you're going to get your return. It's going to be lower, and then you've got your value add. You're pushing appreciation through increasing the rates to market. And some investors don't like the types, the ups and downs monthly rents, because you're pushing vacancies in order to do renovations in order to increase the rents to market. So there's a more volatile for a 12 to 24 months. So it's
Absolutely.
it is playing matchmaker with the deal and the investor as well.
Yeah, we typically set our stabilization parameters at about 36 months.
Yeah.
And it could be 18 months. I mean, that's generally like we internally, we're like, okay, we can get this occupied and stable in 18 months and refi if we want to or whatever, and it should be good and cash flowing. But we present 36 months to our investors so that if they are ready to invest, knowing that the first 3 years are really a stabilization period on a heavier value add, then they're going to be comfortable as heck with 18 months.
Yeah.
Or 2 years, right? But if you do it the other way around, it's not great for everybody.
Yeah, it's exciting if you can push it and it makes sense. And I mean, we're like you had mentioned before, you took advantage of the timing of the market, and that's real estate. You have to. I mean, it's cyclical. If you're not, then you're missing opportunity to really make those gains.
Yep.
In your bio, you had mentioned that you've built a company that over 70,000 military members. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, active duty passive income. If you go to militaryrealestateinvesting.com, it'll take you right to our group if you're military. Unfortunately, if you're not military, you won't get in. It is a private community, but we do have 72,000 members and growing at about 1,500 members a month. And we have maintained an 83% engagement rate in that community. So that is where we house all of our kind of core education. We're an education company and community. First and foremost. And then what we did over the last 6 years was listen. As we put out content, we would just simply go and the thousands were coming in. We would just listen to what they said. We would poll the audience. We would listen some more. We would poll and tweak the audience. And they kept on saying, hey, we need better lending. We need better insurance. We need better real estate agents. We need a way to invest with you. So we created ADPI Capital, ADPI Realty, ADPI Insurance, and ADPI Lending in order to serve military members better with a more education front facing stance.
Nice. That's huge. That's vertically integrated. That's awesome. If you had to start over, how would you start over and where would you start at?
I like where I am. And so I don't think I've given this answer before, but I don't know that I would change anything. I would love to say, and maybe in the past I've said, oh man, I would love to start earlier. And obviously everyone wants to start earlier, but I get to live that way through my kids now, which is cool. I have an 11 and 14-year-old boys. And since they were 4 years old, I've been teaching them, like they're playing in the bathtub and I'd walk by and say, hey kids, what's an asset? And they'd be like, it's when money makes you more money. Or what's an investment? It's when money makes you more money, Dad. And so planting those tiny seeds in them is so gratifying. And I don't think I would have that if I didn't kind of get there the way I am. And it's also gratifying to see our community grow by the thousands, and all of the testimony we hear is just, it's inspiring, because these are military members making $50,000 a year or less. A lot of times they're not accredited. That's not the military's job to teach financial literacy. It's war fighting and defending. And so we get that intersection. Now we've created this amazing intersection, this hyper niche of, we speak the same language of real estate investing and we speak the same language of military. And there is an inherent trust built into that. We want to build teams together. We want to grow and thrive together. And our students are absolutely crushing it, because nobody needs a new mission and purpose more than a transitioning military member. Nobody can follow a checklist like a military member coming out of service or still serving. Following an SOP is what we do. So, and like I said earlier in the show, thousands before us have done this. So there's a checklist, and it is in the form of books, podcasts, coaching, you name it. right?
Yeah, it's definitely been very well critiqued, and just following a path of others. I mean, there is no secret formula. The formula is to
Nope.
get involved and take action today instead of waiting.
Action. Nailed it.
That's one of the biggest keys. But if somebody's wanting to get started in real estate, they're trying to connect the dots, they're listening to this podcast, or listening to other podcasts, still are just trying to connect the dots. How would you recommend them to continue down the path of getting into real estate?
Yeah, I've got an easy solution for you. It is a 4-step success. I call it the success formula whenever I'm talking about it, but it is learn all you can. And this is literally I'm walking, talking proof that anybody can do this. The number one thing you do is learn all you can. So you're doing it right now by listening to this podcast. Keep listening to this podcast, read books. There's all kinds of podcasts out there. Start with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, then go to Cash Flow Quadrant, then just go down the list. Money Master the Game is another great book to read to get your kind of mind right. So learn all you can is number one. Number two, I'm visual, so I'm sitting here using my fingers. For those of you not watching this, number two is you have got to network your butt off. You have a brand. You listening here right now, you have a brand that you haven't uncovered yet, or maybe you have. Go tell people what that is. Your brand is like who you are, what you do. It's not a logo. It's who you are, what you do, your energy, your style, the way you communicate, the way you show up. That's your brand. I am a military real estate investor. That's kind of my identity. I love to help, educate, empower, and help people grow. That's my identity. I love to connect people. That's my brand, right? Okay, so find that. And it's usually what you feel most comfortable with or you get the most gratification out of. So figure out what you love. That's usually your brand. Maybe it's your spouse. You're like a power spouse couple. Go brand that. Go tell people that that's what you are. So 2 is networking. 3, you have to add value to as many people as possible. Across the board, adding value is having conversations. One of the best things you can do is to listen to Josh and see what his problems are, and then go talk to Steve and see what his problems are and connect them and make a solution happen. Then you just became important to 2 different people. And so I can't stress that part enough. You've got to go add value, figure out what value you add by learning and networking, add that value. And then the last step, number 4, is take action. You just said that, Josh. Take action. You cannot do any of that stuff without taking action. You've got to go in there, be willing to screw it up. No one's getting shot at. I'll tell you this right now. No one's getting shot at. No one's getting hurt. Go do it. Okay. Yeah. Be cautious and make sure you learn and you're not trying to screw anybody over. So do it with integrity, but go take action and goodwill. Okay. If you do those 4 things continuously every day with consistency, with the intention to only be 1% better daily, success will hunt you down, period. You will find success.
100% show up. Love it. If somebody wants to get a hold of you and learn more about yourself, how can they reach out?
Can I give a plug to Veterans Community Project real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
Look, we are ending veteran homelessness this decade. This is the only mission in life I ultimately care about is ending veteran homelessness. This is what drives me every day getting up. I do challenge for charities, crazy hikes, insane. We just hiked 45 miles in 24 hours around Mount Hood last week and raised a bunch of money. Last year, we raised $200,000 for Veterans Community Project by hiking 170 miles around Lake Tahoe. If you are a go-getter and you want to raise money and help us end veteran homelessness, it is happening. We've already reduced the veteran homelessness population from 38,000 to 32,000 in the last 3 years. This is happening, people. Mark my words. It's on my vision board. It's happening. Anyway, so to answer your question, you can reach out to me anytime at Real Eric Upchurch on Instagram, or please, if you're a military member and want to connect, Eric at activedutypassiveincome.com. I will take your call. I will answer your email. I'll make sure you get on the right path.
Cool. Awesome. Eric Upchurch, appreciate you coming on today, and definitely be following you and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.